Welcome back to Elite Sports Talk. Guys, we're inching closer and closer to the start of the NFL season. We are just about at that 40-day mark where, a lot of great things have been happening in the offseason. Right now, we are getting prepared for, I believe it's called Get Back Together weekend or whatever, Saturday and Sunday, where they're going to be going around the league. I believe it will air on ESPN. They'll be showing each and every team in training camp, sit down with players and coaches and do interviews and all that great stuff. And since all that's getting ready to happen, I figured I'm going to be doing probably one division a week where I'm going to run down each division, all four teams, and I'll go through a little bit of like the rosters and stuff, what happened last year, some of the stats of each team. And I'm also going to actually give my projections for every team's schedule for this season. And I'll also probably tell you how I fared last year when I did this same thing. The first division that we have up, I didn't do a great job with it last year. I'm talking about the NFC West. Now, before we get to that, let's just, like I always start the show off, remember Elite Sports Talk. You can find all episodes audio only wherever podcasts can be found, especially Spotify and Apple Podcast. And to watch the episodes, you can watch them on both YouTube and Rumble. And so I guess there's nothing else to say except let's get ready for some football. So, this is kind of a no-brainer. I believe that the Arizona Cardinals will finish fourth in the NFC West. And frankly, even if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan, I don't think that you're really thinking they're going to get any much higher than fourth, maybe third if you're lucky. So if you don't know what's going on with the Arizona Cardinals, they don't get a lot of publicity, when it comes to the national media because they have not been good in a very long time. And now even more so with them losing Kyler Murray to the Minnesota Vikings, they really don't have a top-tier quarterback. They have stability in a couple of quarterbacks. They did pick up in the offseason from Kansas City Chiefs, Gardner Minshew. They also have Jacoby Brissett, who is scheduled to be the Week 1 starter. He just got a brand new deal about 48 hours ago, I believe. $15.5 million deal on a 1-year deal, and it's worth up to $21 million with incentives. And some of the additions that they have made in the offseason, they got a couple of wideouts in Kendrick Bourne. They actually also got Tyler Algier, who you should be very excited about. He's coming over from Atlanta, and he was a part of that 1-2 punch backfield with Bijan Robinson. They drafted... a lot of people may not know this name, but they drafted Jeremiah Love. Now, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you know exactly who this kid is. Top running back in the nation. And, it's a shame because I don't know that they're going to have the offensive line to really help solidify and show how great Jeremiah Love is in year one, or really to hold up for pass protection for Jacoby Brissett. But another thing that you will definitely love to know is that Trey McBride, he's back, he's healthy. And last year, now me personally, I've been calling his name a lot in the past couple of years now. His first year in the league, Zach Ertz was also there with him, so they didn't really get to unleash him. The past 2 seasons, he has been going on an upward trajectory that not many tight ends have gone on in statistical value, at least within their first 2 or 3 seasons. Last year, he had 1,239 yards, which was 6th best in the league, 126 receptions, 2nd in the league, 11 touchdowns, also 2nd in the league, and he had 169 targets total, which ranked just 3rd in the NFL. These are insane numbers. He's not a wide receiver. He's a tight end. He is, however, the best option that they have as of right now in the passing game. And I'll get to some of the other guys they have in just a moment. Now, this is not a completely new regime this year. They kept the same DC in Nick Rallis, but they did get a new offensive coordinator in Hackett, and they also got a brand new head coach in Mike LaFleur. Their old head coach is now the defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, I'm talking about, for the Green Bay Packers. Their key additions, like I was saying, though, so they ended up getting Kendrick Bourne, Devin Duvernay, and then Tyler Algier, Gardner Minshew, and then they also got Andrew Billings came over from the Chicago Bears. And then they drafted not only Jeremiah Love, but they also drafted Carson Beck, who was a part of the Georgia Bulldogs' two, I believe they were back-to-back national championship runs. He was the backup in both of those games that Georgia won. And then last year, of course, he himself, as the starting quarterback from Miami University for his last year in college, got them all the way to the national championship, although, it was not successful for him. As we all know, Indiana Hoosiers took it. But so when you look at this roster from top to bottom, I mean, you have Michael Wilson, who, emerged last year as kind of their number one receiver, really, even though it was supposed to be Marvin Harrison Jr., just about 2 years out, I believe, from Ohio State, who was, a lot of people had him as a generational talent. And, not to say that he can or can't live up to what his father did in the NFL, but what I will say is, so far, it has not gone well for him in camp. People are magnifying a lot of these drops, and he's really had issues with drops last year and his rookie season. And, it's a shame because he really is a gifted receiver, and I think that it will only show and only prove, as time goes on. It is also a shame that really he does not have I guess I would say a top tier quarterback with him. Although the quarterback that he does have is a very good quarterback. He's been in the league for a long time. He's played for a lot of teams. And I think that, I think that this will help him in some ways. And it's only a 1-year deal, like I said, for Jacoby Brissett. So I don't see him being, the guy that's going to be there for the future for them. Carson Beck may end up getting that. Maybe they'll even take a shot on Gardner Minshew if it doesn't work out with Jacoby. Although last year, it should be said, Jacoby Brissett in the games that he did play, he actually led the league in yards per game. So that's huge. And we'll see what happens here. But he's got 3 receivers in Kendrick Bourne, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. I already talked about the greatness of Trey McBride. And the running backs, not only do you have Jeremiah Love and Tyler Algier, but now you have what seems to be, I guess, 100% healthy James Conner. So that's also, this 3-back system, potentially 4. Trey Benson is going to be behind James Conner on the depth chart. I don't see him getting cut. He did some good things last year. He did some foolish things as well that we may or may not remember. But he gained a lot of yards for them in the few games that he had played last year. It was 3 different running backs because James Conner went down. But also, this offensive line, like I was saying a minute ago, I'm not really too sure about this O-line. And given the fact that I have Arizona, which everybody probably will have them as going to be number 4 in the division, this offensive line, at times it looked decent last year for Kyler, but at times it was also pretty bad. And not only that, but being in this division where, by the way, last year you went 0-6 against the likes of Seattle Seahawks, the LA Rams, and the San Francisco 49ers, I don't really know how they're going to be able to hold up and contain, against some of these guys on these other teams' defensive lines. So for that reason as well, I don't know how this offense is going to look. I don't know how great Jacoby Brissett's going to be, if he's going to have enough time to get the ball off, especially when they're playing divisional games. We may even wind up seeing Gardner Minshew at some point, or maybe Carson Beck. I really don't know. But then when you look at the defensive side, as I said, Nick Rallis is the only coach that's going to be back for the staff. This is now year 4 for him with this defense. And, they do actually have some talent on this defense. So, if anything, maybe they can be good enough to surprise us and win some games that we wouldn't expect them to win. You look at their defensive ends, they have Walter Nolan III. They also have L.J. Kier, who came over from Seattle Seahawks, rather. They have Roy Lopez as the nose tackle, and then Andrew Billings, like I already said, by way of the Chicago Bears. Then you have guys like Zaven Collins on the left side linebacker. You have Baron Browning Jr., who's a pretty good edge rusher, and I feel like he's going to take even a bigger step forward this year. Jack Gibbons, the backup weak side linebacker who came over from New England. Then you have Mack Wilson Sr. as their Mike back, and we all know how special he is. Josh Sweat, who had came over, I believe, this time last year from the Philadelphia Eagles. Then you have Budda Baker, who's still, in my opinion, one of the best strong safeties in the league today. And you also have guys like Max Melton, Denzel Burke, and then Will Johnson, who went in with the second round, I believe, last year in the NFL draft, who came, out of Michigan, I believe. So they do have some talent here, and I think there's a promising future ahead, just in my opinion, not a promising immediate future. And when you get to last year with their rankings, you look at the offensive side. They had 327 yards per game. That ranks 17th in the league. The run game, just 93 yards per game. That was 31st. Passing yards, they actually ranked 7th in the league with 233.9 yards per game, so 234. And that was largely, like I said, when Jacoby did come in the games that he played, he actually was the top quarterback in the league in terms of passing yards per game. He just didn't play the whole season. He came in, I think, around maybe the halfway mark when Kyler got hurt. We thought Kyler would come back. He never did. And also, like I said, they had a large amount of yards really eaten up by both Michael Wilson, who emerged as kind of their top threat at the receiver position, and then what Trey McBride did. Like I just said, he had over 1,200 yards. So points per game, though, they were just under 21 points per game. They ranked 22nd in the league. Defensively, it was pretty poor all around. They gave up the 24th most passing yards per game, 25th most on the ground, and total, they gave up around almost 360 yards per game, which was 27th in the league. They also gave up almost 29 points per game, which ironically ranks 29th in the league. And in terms of sacks, they were not getting to the quarterback, not nearly as much as they should have been, certainly with some of the talent that they have here. And I believe they even had Calais Campbell come back last year for 1 year. So you would think that would have helped their pass rush, but they ranked 28th in the league with just 30 sacks. So now we're going to get to the schedule. Week 1, they are at LA playing the Chargers. Now, like I said, a team like this at times, may surprise you. They may come out of left field and upset some teams, and I believe that they will do that in week 1 and start the season 1-0. The following week, they go back home to Arizona. They have the Seattle Seahawks, both the division champs of the NFC West and the Super Bowl champs last year. And I think that the same thing will happen again. I think they will wind up some way, somehow, edging out a victory over Seattle at home, start the season 2-0. Now, before you think I'm crazy, now they're going to go back-to-back road games One is within the division. They're going up to San Fran. I do believe San Fran will hand them a loss. Then they're going to come out east and play against the New York Giants. I believe they will lose that game as well. So that puts them at 2-2 now. Then they're going to go back home, and they're going to have the Detroit Lions come in, and I think Detroit's going to win that game. Then they're going to go back to LA, this time to play the Rams, and I think they will beat the Rams as well the first time they play them. So now you're 3-3, and, you know, Arizona fans at this point should be pretty happy. Although from here, I think it's going to really unravel because I believe that they will lose the following week, Game 7 at home against Denver, go to Dallas, get another loss. Then they're going to go up to Seattle, where they will lose again, go back home, play the Rams, lose again, make their way over to Kansas City, and get another loss. Then they're going to have the Washington Commanders come in week 12. I do believe that some way they will edge that game out as well. That will be... Oh, no, I was going to say that was going to be a national game. That will be a 4:25 game on Fox. It will be in Arizona. I think they will win that one. Then they also have Philly coming in and at Arizona, and I believe they will lose that. They will go on their bye week in week 14. Week 15, home against the Jets. I think they'll get a victory there. Then they're going to head towards east to play the New Orleans Saints in week 16. I think that'll be another loss. Then they go back home for their last 2 games of the season. Week 17 against the Las Vegas Raiders, who at that point in the season, you never know, we could very likely be seeing Fernando Mendoza. But I do believe Arizona Cardinals will win that game. The Raiders aren't really that good yet. They did some good things in the offseason. I don't think they have the receiving depth, really. There's still time as of right now. I mean, it's July 29th. Maybe they could bring a veteran receiver in. But I don't really know what level of play even a veteran receiver would give you. They got a better O-line. They got Ashton Genty, who in my opinion is one of the better running backs. Same thing with their tight end. He's very comparable to Trey McBride, Brock Bowers. But like I said, outside of that, they don't really have too much for either Kirk Cousins or for Fernando Mendoza to get the ball to. And last game of the season, another home game, like I said, San Francisco 49ers. I believe that'll be a loss. So I think, call me crazy, but I think Arizona may actually go 6-11 this season. And last year, I actually projected them. This was not knowing the whole situation with Kyler Murray, that he was going to get hurt and that he would never get another game under his belt. I thought Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to be a lot better as well. Didn't know James Conner was going to go down. Some of the offensive linemen went down. You know, whatever. Injuries happen. Anyway, I had them 10-7. They went 3-14. And like I said, the toughest part about it is if you can't even win 2 to 3 games in your own division, that kind of puts you out pretty early, out of contention for really both the playoffs and for your own division here. So now let's go ahead and get to who I believe is going to finish 3rd in the NFC West this season. So, sorry about that. I had to get a little sip of my Poland Spring. So, number 3 is, I believe, the San Francisco 49ers. Now, what I will say is last year, this was a very strange San Francisco 49ers, something that we have not seen in a while. You know, they still ended the season 12-5, though they were 3rd in the division. But it was strange because their defense didn't have that same type of a feel to it that they normally would. And really, one of the main reasons is because both Nick Bosa and Fred Warner got hurt. They were missed, you know, Bosa, I believe, missed like the entire year pretty much. Warner played up until, I believe, week 6 or 7, and then he missed the rest of the year. They also had some issues out of their defensive backfield. A couple of guys getting hurt. Obviously, they did not have Talanoa Hufanga anymore, as he is on the Denver Broncos. They also lost a couple of other guys. But also, it was weird because the run game at times didn't look as efficient as it had in years past, but also Trent Williams missed a decent amount of time last season too. But CMC still managed a way to get over 1,200 yards, 1,208 yards to be exact, which finished 8th in the league. He also finished with 10 touchdowns, which was 9th best in the league. But see, something that I'm worried about is, he was healthy all year last year, Christian, but that was coming off of a year where he had injured, I believe it was both of his Achilles, I think. I forget what it was on his legs, but it was both of his legs. And we know that he's been carrying a lot of injuries from year to year for quite some time. So like I said, last year it was great to see him healthy and do all that he did. However, running backs, a lot of times they don't last a long time because when they get too many reps, it kind of just starts to deteriorate their ability to run and their legs and their body overall. A lot of wear and tear, especially when it comes to versatile backs like a McCaffrey, who not only runs but comes out of the backfield too and catches passes and has to try to run people over. And, there's a lot that goes with being a running back. That's why I believe that that position is probably one of the top positions where guys don't last, don't have an elongated career usually. But I say all this because last year, McCaffrey had 311 attempts, and that was second most in the league. So I think that maybe they should give him a lighter load this year and bring in their backup running back, who's now a couple of years removed from Oregon State, I'm sorry, I had to look, I forget, James Jordan. They also have a couple of other guys as well. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But so their key additions this offseason, one that everybody is going crazy about is Mike Evans. He is a future Hall of Famer, as we all know. Won a Super Bowl already, and he tied, I believe, Jerry Rice's record for most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Christian Kirk also is coming over. A really good veteran receiver here. Fullback Kyle Juszczyk, cornerback Jack Jones comes over from the Miami Dolphins. Nate Hobbs, which is the nickel, I believe he was with Green Bay last. And then after 1 year being gone with the Denver Broncos, Dre Greenlaw returns to this defense. And so really, I mean, it's going to be really cool to see how this defense looks with Nick Bosa back, Fred Warner, and Dre Greenlaw. The bad news is that two things. One, Robert Saleh has moved on. He is now the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, although they did get Raheem Morris to come on board to steer the ship for the defense. He was actually the Atlanta Falcons head coach for the past 2 seasons. Did not work out. And George Kittle is the other thing. The uncertainty of George Kittle and his availability for week number 1. And from what I'm hearing, he might be close to 100% by week 1. But whether he is or not, they may actually not have him on the flight. It's going to be a very long flight if you did not realize they are playing week 1 in Melbourne, Australia in a divisional game against the LA Rams. So, yeah, I wouldn't really expect him to be there for week 1. I don't really think it's going to matter one way or another, though, because playing in a whole nother place in Australia, there's a lot of excuses to lose, really, I guess. So whether he plays or not, I don't think it's going to be much of a factor for them. It's always hard when you're going to another country. I mean, if you were going to Germany or something, but going to Australia, I believe that's a much longer flight as well. So, but anyway, so last year, this team, and with all the injuries that they dealt with, they also dealt with the quarterback position. Brock Purdy had only played 9 games. Mac Jones actually came in and really played some of the best football, if not the best football of his entire career. He played 11 games for them. So just knowing that they had 2 different quarterbacks, and yet they ranked 4th in the league in passing yards per game. That's pretty dang good, you know? And total yardage, they were 8th in the league, 345.9 yards per game. And when you look at really the 2 quarterbacks here, pretty similar with the yardage, at least. Mac Jones, like I said, had 2 more starts than Purdy, or 2 more games played rather than Purdy. 2,151 yards. Brock Purdy had 2,167, but Purdy had the touchdowns 20-10 ratio, TD to interception. Mac Jones threw just 13 touchdowns, though he did only have 6 interceptions. But yeah, so now before we get to the games now, the schedule, like I said, they got Mike Evans now. We all know what's going on with the situation. I don't even want to say his name, but with their old receiver who used to play with Jaden Daniels in college, a lot has been going on, man. I hope that he gets back on track at some point in time, because I really, frankly, don't see anybody signing him right now or in the immediate future. But Mike Evans came over, like I said. Ricky Pearsall is going to be fully healthy this year now, who was their first-round pick 2 seasons ago in 2024. Christian Kirk comes over from Houston. You still got Trent Williams. You still got Jake Brendel in the middle of the offensive line. George Kittle, like I said, he may miss probably the first game, maybe even the first couple. You never know. Or he could be 100% healthy and play. Either way, they do have Jake Tongs, who last year, he had a pretty strong outing, playing for the first time in his career as a starter for a handful of games. Didn't really look like they missed too much. He kind of played just like George Kittle. And then, like I said, you also have, you got Demarcus Robinson, who he may make the team. He's still a decent option, if need be, at the receiver position. Jordan Watkins, and then they also drafted a rookie in Stribling, and I've been told that he is a very fast receiver that's going to be able to stretch the field. So I feel like he'll probably get the 4th most targets out of these guys, out of this position group. And then you look at, like I said, they got really 2 good quarterbacks in Mac Jones as well. And then behind Christian McCaffrey, as I said a few minutes ago, they got Jordan James, who I don't really think he played last year. I think he was hurt. Couple seasons removed. Jordan James, or no, yeah, 2025 actually. So last year. So I guess he was hurt last year, because last year he didn't play. I thought he came out a couple of years ago. But then they also drafted a rookie running back this year. And then they also have Isaac Rendo, who's also injured, though he did get a bunch of playing time over the last 2 seasons. And then you have, when you look at the defense, so like I said, no more Robert Saleh. Now it's Raheem Morris. And they got, let's see, Keon White, Michael Williams. They got Alfred Collins. And then, like I already said, the obvious, the Nick Bosas of the world, the Dre Greenlaws and Fred Warners of the world, that all should be healthy. Jack Jones coming over from Miami, like I already mentioned. Renardo Green will be their starting left corner. Then they have Upton Stout as their nickel, and Diamador Lenore is going to be their right corner, who played pretty good last year. They do have a decent amount of depth, actually, when it comes to their DB positions. I'm not too sure about Jair Brown, their strong safety. I do remember hearing them talk a little bit about him and the type of player he is and how good he actually really could be for them, which I guess that's probably one of the reasons why they had moved on from Hufanga. And then they also have Malik Mustafa, who he made quite a name for himself last season. So you look at their offense, like I said already, they were 8th in the league in total yardage, 25th in the run game with 105.3 per game. That's what I meant when I said they were kind of lacking a little bit regardless of Christian McCaffrey's stats. And then the pass game, like I already said, with, that 2-quarterback system, I guess we'll call it, they were 4th best in the league there. They were 11th in the league in points per game, 24.5. And then defensively, they allowed a lot, man. 335 plus total yards per game. That ranked 20th in the league. Against the run game, they were 11th in the league. Giving up 113 yards per game. And then pass, it was 222 yards per game, 25th in the league against the pass. So, yeah, obviously they got to get better. Like I just said, it looks like they may have a decent amount of depth here for this pass defense to succeed. Plus, just knowing that you're getting back, like I already said, Dre Greenlaw, who's not really going to blitz the quarterback a lot, but Nick Bosa. And then you got a guy coming over, defensive tackle from Dallas as well. And then Michael Williams and Keon White coming over from New England. So, I mean, we'll see, man. We'll see what happens when they go up against, the other guys in their division and really this whole schedule, which I'm about to get to here. And defensively, points per game allowed, 13th, almost 23 points per game. And they were dead last in sacks. So, like I just said, getting healthy with this defense, this defensive line, hopefully that should improve. They only had 20 sacks last year. That's pretty terrible, especially when you look from what they had to what Denver had, who led the league in sacks. That was 68, so that's 48 sacks less than the leader in the league there. But then when we look and break down their schedule, week 1, like I said, they're going to Melbourne, Australia, playing the Rams, and I do believe that they will lose with or without George Kittle. Then they got the Miami Dolphins at home. I do think they'll win that game. Arizona Cardinals at home. I do believe they'll win that game as well. Which, yeah. No, wait. Didn't I say? Yeah, I did say that. Okay. So Arizona, they'll win that game. Then, so really they're actually going to have 3 straight home games. And then against Denver, we already said they're going to get a loss there. Then they go to Seattle. They're going to lose that one as well. Washington Commanders go to San Fran, where I believe Washington will win that game. Then you got the Atlanta, Hawks, the Atlanta Falcons at Atlanta, and I do believe the Niners will win that game. Week 8 is going to be their bye week. Week 9, they should get an easy win, I believe, over the Las Vegas Raiders at home. Then they're going down to Dallas, where I do think they will end up with a loss. Then they will play the Minnesota Vikings, who I think are a team that not enough people are talking about. I think they're a sleeper team this year with Kyler Murray. But I do think the Niners will actually beat Minnesota at home in Week 11. Week 12, they play the Seattle Seahawks at home, where I do think they'll beat the champs. And then they go to New York, where I think the Giants will give them a loss. Then Week 14, they're going back home to play the Rams. I do think they will beat the Rams. It's always tight-knit games with these divisional opponents, specifically with the Rams, Seahawks, and Niners. Although even last year, we seen the Cardinals really should have beat Seattle both times they played them, which was crazy. But again, they went 0-6 in the division. But yeah, so I do think that they will beat the Rams in Week 14. Week 15 at LA to play the Chargers this time. I think they'll beat them as well. Then they're going to go out to Kansas City, and I do think that they're going to get a loss at Arrowhead. Then they're going back home again. They got the Philadelphia Eagles coming into town. I do think the Eagles will win. And then they go out to Arizona for their last game of the season, and I think that they will win over Arizona. So, again, this is actually a pretty tough schedule. not just your divisional opponents, but when you look at other teams like the what ifs of the Atlanta Falcons with Tua, who right now, by the way, has not practiced. Apparently, he's got tightness in his back. So I guess they'll be monitoring that. And I believe that Michael Penix is still also hurt. There was news. I forget which quarterback it was, but I'm pretty sure Atlanta just signed another quarterback. God forbid they go into the season and they don't have Tua or Penix available. But if Tua is healthy, I think this is also going to be a decent team. So playing them and beating them, I think, should be a plus. Then you have teams like, obviously, the Denver Broncos, which is going to be tough. I think Washington will be a better team this year, so that'll be a very tough game for them. Dallas Cowboys, defensively, it's going to be, I think they're going to be way better than they were a year ago. I said this on the last episode that I did. And offensively, I don't know, if San Fran's going to be able to contain one of the top, if not the top offense in the NFL. Then the Giants, they may actually wind up in the playoffs this season, if I'm being quite honest. I mean, they have a lot of guys there, a lot of offensive guys. A healthy Cam Scatterbo, and then a healthy Malik Neighbors, if he is ready for week 1 at least. So, yeah, I mean, then the Chiefs and the Eagles, we know how tough both of those teams could be. Now, I could be wrong. Last year, I had San Fran going 6-11, and like I said, this was really my worst division in projections. They won double that, and they went 12-5. We're third in the division, but they were in the playoffs, and that's really all that matters. So we'll see if I'm right or if I'm not. Now we're going to get to the number 2 team. I know, I get it. Charlie B has lost his mind, right? I know they just won the Super Bowl, and last year it was sad how wrong I was about this team, but now I see them for what they are, who they are, but I do still have them finishing second in the division. And, before the Seattle Seahawks fans get loud here, let me just explain. So first off, let's look at some of this stuff here. So again, they won the Super Bowl. Bravo to the Seattle Seahawks. JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigbo, won the Offensive Player of the Year. He led the league in receiving yards with almost 1,800 yards. He had 1,793 yards, which also broke a franchise record for Seattle. 119 catches, which ranked 4th in the league. And then he was tied for 6th in the league with 10 touchdowns. And then when you look at their defense, which is one of the main reasons why they were able to do what they did last year, total yards per game, they were 6th in the league. They were 10th in the league in passing yards allowed. And the ground game defense ranked 3rd in the league. And points per game, they were the best team in the league. I believe it was like a little over 17 points per game is all they allowed. So now their key departures, Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker III is now a Kansas City Chief, which actually may be for the best, really, because last year was the best year he had. He had a lot of injury issues in his career, in his short career, rather. Cornerback Reek Woolen also left in free agency. He is now a Philadelphia Eagle. Safety Kobe Bryant is gone. Boye Mafe is, I want to say, with Baltimore now. And the obvious, they lost offense coordinator Clint Kubiak, who is now the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So, when you run down this roster and see how skilled and talented this team really is, it's pretty crazy, specifically the defense, but the offense is great, okay? So Jackson Smith and Jigba, like I just said, we all know how good he is. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer by the end of his career, and he's only 3 years in now. Rashid Shaheed, who I think they're going to actually, I think they're going to let him go a little more as a receiver this year. I don't know that he's still going to be Well, yeah, he is. He's their top guy for both kick return and punt return. But I would love to see what they can map up schematically, for him as a true receiver. I mean, we've seen a little bit of it when he was with the Saints. Yes, he is a special returner. But, I mean, Cooper Kupp, he's getting older, man. And he is going to be their starter at slot. And he did have a very impressive one-handed catch the other day, but that's not really news. I mean, Cooper Kupp, that's just what he does. That's what he's done over his career. They also have Jake Bobo and Torrey Horton as their backup receivers, which I think we're going to see a little bit more of them this year as well. Plus, they got a rookie in the draft. And then Charles Cross and Gray Zabel really are the leaders of this offensive line, both on the left side of the line, both former first-round draft picks. Then you got A.J. Barner, who is scheduled to be their starting tight end, who did better than, I think we probably had him doing last season. He had very quick chemistry he had built up with Sam Darnold. And then speaking of Sam Darnold, they got two decent quarterbacks behind Darnold with Drew Lock, who really probably at this point in his career should probably be the third string because they also have Jalen Milroe, who came out of Alabama in 2025. And I do expect him to, we'll see how long Sam Darnold is going to be their starting quarterback. I mean, I don't want to take nothing away. He just won the Super Bowl and, really re-cemented I guess what his legacy could be going forward in NFL. But Jalen Milroe, though, I believe he brings a completely type of a different, a different type of play really to the position because he can also take off and run it. And I don't know. I'm just saying Sam Darnold's still going to be the starter this year, but they have good backups, at least one very talented backup at least. And Zach Charbonnet is starting the season injured, I believe. So it looks like Jadarian Price, which really, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. If he winds up being the starter, because I do believe he will be the single starter for them. I don't think it's going to be a two-back system like it was last year with Charbonnet and Walker. I think it's only a matter of time before they hand the keys over to Jadarian Price. If you don't know a lot about him, he also, just like Jeremiah Love, he came out of Notre Dame. And he was a first-round draft pick, and he was technically the backup to Jeremiah Love in Notre Dame. So that just shows you how talented for both of these guys to come out the same year and both be first-round draft picks. Then they have other guys, Helani George out of Boise a couple years ago, Emmanuel Wilson. So they have a plethora, really, of options at running back, but none better, in my opinion, than Jadarian Price. Then you look at their defense, and again, this is the most talented defense probably in the league. The only other two I think that really can contest with this defense on paper would be the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans at this point in time. Dallas Cowboys, really good. Philadelphia Eagles, really good. But that's my opinion for the top three, really, defenses. Leonard Williams, defensive end, he's still there. Then you got Byron Murphy, the second plug in the middle, along with Jaron Reed, who came over from Green Bay. DeMarcus Lawrence. Then they got Dante Fowler Jr., who just came over from Dallas. Ernest Jones IV, who actually was top 5 in the league in interceptions last year with 5 interceptions. Uchenna Nwosu. Devin Weatherspoon at cornerback, which I believe he's actually still got to get a new deal. He was first-round draft pick in 2023. Julian Love at safety. Josh Jobe at the other cornerback spot. And then Nick Immanwori, who is going to start the season injured. He's their nickelback. He could play safety. He could play corner. He could play linebacker. He could play edge rusher, man. That guy is amazing. So, yeah, they got a lot of depth, too, actually, on this team. Bud Clark is going to be a rookie for them. Julian Neal as well. This defense is just, they're not going to quit. Last year, Against the pass, they were the 10th best in the league, 194 yards, we'll say, per game they gave up. On the ground, they only gave up 93 yards a game, which ranked third in the league. Total yards per game, just under 300, which ranked sixth in the league at 295. Points per game allowed, first in the league, like I said, just over 17.2. They were ninth in sacks with 47. Then you look at the offensive side of the ball, and they were seventh in the league in total offense, 10th in the league on the ground, and 10th in the league by way of the air, and second in points per game with just over 29 points per game. So, so I wish I could skip this part, but really I'm going to say it. Like I said, last year, I really did not see them. I never would have thought that they would have won the Super Bowl. I never, in the beginning of the year, this time last year is when I made my record projections. I did not think that we were going to see that dominant of a defense. I did not think that we were going to see that great of play coming out of Sam Darnold in his first year. I never thought he was a terrible quarterback like a lot of people did with the whole seeing ghost thing when he was with the Jets. And then he floated around the league a little bit. And obviously, coming off the season that he had with Minnesota, that was great. But he was in Kevin O'Connell's offense, which a lot of people, have said that he's a quarterback whisperer. So I didn't see the same type of play in year one and having the type of chemistry, frankly, that he did with Jackson Smith and Jigba. But they went 14-3, as we very well know, and I had them going 4-13. And now let's get to the number one team. I hit that a little abruptly, but you know what? I did it because I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed at how bad I did with the projection for them, for this whole division, really. But this one I did pretty dang good with. So, yeah, you've seen it. Number one, I have the Los Angeles Rams winning the division, which they should have last year. And, actually, I forgot. I never actually said what the record was. I have... I messed up here. So, I'm going to have to redo this part here. So, the schedule for the Seattle Seahawks, I didn't even get to that point. I just did the roster. Wow, I'm getting a little tired here. So, New England Patriots is who Seattle will be playing in week one, and I do have New England winning. I'm sorry, I do have Seattle beating New England at home. Then they play at Arizona in week two, where I do think they will lose to Arizona, as we already discussed when we went over Arizona's schedule. Then they go out to Washington to play the Commanders in week three. I do believe that will be another loss. Week four, they got the LA Chargers at home, and I think that'll be a win. Week five, they got San Fran at home. I believe that will also be a win. Week six, at Denver Broncos. I think that will be a loss. Week seven, Kansas City at Seattle. And I do think that Seattle will win that one. Then they will go on a couple of wins here in a row. Then they got Chicago also at home. That'll be a win. The Arizona Cardinals come into town, which would be a win. Then they go out to Las Vegas. I think that they will win 4 straight and then go into their bye week in week 11. Week 12 at San Fran, I think, will be a loss. Week 13, home against Dallas. I think Seattle will get a win there. And week 14, they'll stay home. They got the Giants coming to town. And I actually think the Giants will upset the Seahawks here. And then week 15, they will go all the way to the East Coast out to play the Philadelphia Eagles. And I do think that Seattle will win in Philly. Week 16, the Rams. And I do think that they will lose to the Rams. Then they go to Carolina they end the season actually with back-to-back road games. First one at Carolina, I think, will be a loss. I think Carolina will get the revenge this year. Carolina really should have beaten Seattle last year. There was a ton of turnovers in that game, if I'm remembering correctly, and still Carolina couldn't come away with the dub. But this time, I do think they will. And then, last but not least, Week 18 at LA to play the Rams. I think they will win, and I do think that they will go 10-7. So we'll see how right I am about that. And now for number one. And like I started to say, obviously I have the Rams winning the division, and I think a lot of people probably will. So you look at what they did last season, and they only added to that. And I mean, yeah, obviously we know about one person that they added. How can we not talk about that? We'll get to that. But really, I just think top to bottom, I think really this is probably going to be the best team in the entire NFC. And I think that some way, somehow, they will end the season winning the division, being better than the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, the knowns are Matthew Stafford coming off of an MVP season after he was going through some stuff in the offseason last year with his back and everything. But he ended up 4,707 yards, led the league in passing yards per game. He led the league 277 yards per game. He also was first in passing touchdowns with 46. He only threw 8 interceptions, which was tied for fourth of quarterbacks that played a minimum of at least 11 games. And he was sacked just 23 times, which is tied for the third least in the league. So that says, obviously, that their offensive line is very good in pass protection, and also on the ground as well. But then you look at some of the other things, again, the knowns about this team, which is just to show you why, in case you forgot, maybe, they got Puka and they got Devontae Adams. That's an elite combo. And if Adams is still able to play the way he did last season, this could honestly be the best 1-2 punch, really, of any receiving core in the league. And there's a lot of really good ones this year. Then you have the most obvious, a Hall of Famer. I keep bringing this up. I've said this on like 4 episodes now. Myles Garrett's going to turn this defense into a legitimate threat. And not only him, but, they also traded for Trent McDuffie, and they signed Jalen Watson, which means they have the 2 Kansas City Chiefs corners from like 3 years ago to be their starting corners now. And we don't even know yet 100%. I mean, it's trending as though Aaron Donald is going to unretire. So how can this not be the number one defense? Possibly the number one offense, and it should be not only the winners of this division, but really the Super Bowl champions at the end of the year. And then when you look at the rest of this team, along with Puka and Devontae Adams, they have Jordan Whittington, who 2024, he came out in the 6th round, and he has shown, a lot. He has shown, mostly, I guess, when the other receivers have been hurt at times. And I've seen a lot of good things from him in preseason last year and the year before. But I do believe this year he will solidify the slot position for them. And then they have some other guys. They're not really noteworthy. Like, we got to see, these are some other younger guys outside of the top 3 receivers. Then you look at their backfield, and we know what Kyren Williams can do. We've seen Blake Corum last year getting a lot of reps. Ronnie Rivers, they re-signed him, I believe, on a 1-year deal. So they have these top 3 guys. Kyren Williams obviously should be getting the bulk of the carries, although they may go like 60-40 this year because, like I said, Blake Corum showed a lot last year. Then you have behind Matthew Stafford, if need be, you have Ty Simpson, who a lot of guys had him ranked the number 1 quarterback in the nation. It was between, obviously, him and Mendoza. And then you also have Stetson Bennett, who I believe when we were talking about Arizona, how Carson Beck had played, or he didn't play, but he was on that Georgia Bulldog team that had won 2 national championships. I believe he was the direct backup to Stetson Bennett. So they have a future, no matter how many more years Stafford plays, between Ty Simpson and Stetson Bennett. But back to this year, they still have Colby Parkinson. They still have Tyler Higbee, and then Terrence Ferguson, who was their second-round draft pick last year out of the tight end positions. And then the offensive line. You have Alaric Johnson. You have Steve Avila. You have Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dotson. So, I mean, the offensive line, like I said, they should be really good. Last year, this offense, 397 yards per game, obviously ranked first in the league. We already said passing game first in the league. The run game was 9th in the league, just under 125 yards per game. And points per game, 30 points per game, also led the league. And then you look at the defense, which that's where they needed to get better. That's where they should be better. 335 yards per game, that ranks 17th, I believe. Run game, they gave up 110 yards per game, which was 12th in the league. And then passing game, 19th in the league. Total sacks, they were tied for 7th with 47. And they allowed 21 points per game, which ranked 10th in the league. So again, you know, they were a little up and down. They were good with getting to the quarterback. They were good with points per game. And the run, obviously against the run, they could get a little bit better, but they fared pretty decent there. But they weren't great. That's why they made the moves that they made. That's why they brought in Trent McDuffie. And that's also why they brought in Emmanuel Forbes. Yeah, I think they also just brought him in as well. So they kind of revamped a lot of this defensive back. But Jalen Watson, like I said, they brought him in as well. Cam Curl, he was there last year, I believe. Carmen Kitchens was there last year. Those are their 2 safeties. Quentin Lake, he was there last year as their nickel. And then you look at the defensive line. Like I said, we don't even see Aaron Donald yet, right? So if he comes in with Poona Ford, Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and then obviously Myles Garrett, and then Nate Landman, one of the best linebackers in the league last year. Omar Spates, Grant Stewart is his backup coming over from Detroit. Josiah Stewart. They got depth too, man, at the linebacker position. So, like I said, man, I mean, the one thing I will say, not that this really should matter all too much, because you have Matthew Stafford, you have Puka Nacua, you have Kyron Williams and Devontae Adams, but their offense coordinator, this is going to be his first year as an OC, and Nate Scheelhaas. But really, all he's going to be doing is deciding the game plans, because, I mean, we all know Sean McVay is another king of the offense, you know, one of these top offensive guys. So between him and Stafford and, like I said, all these other guys, you got to think their offense is probably going to be the best in the league. And for Nate Scheelhaas, you know, he's going to learn a lot from this, and he might even get a head coaching opportunity in the next 2 seasons, even though he's not really going to be calling the plays. And then when you look at the schedule, so let's first talk about last year. I actually had them 10-7. I had them going. They ended up going 12-5. So that was by far my best projection with this division. They went 4-2 in the division. And this year, I say they're going to go 11-6. So, like we already talked about, they're going to start the first game off in Melbourne, Australia, and I think they're going to win that game. I do think that that's going to be followed up with 2 losses, coming back from Australia, maybe a little jet lagged. They're going to be home for week 2 game. I do think the Giants will come into town and get a win there. Then they're going to go out to Denver, Colorado in week 3. I think that they will suffer at the hands of this defense. Though they will have a really good defense themselves, but the Broncos offense is also should be a lot better than last year, and they were very good last year. We know they got Jalen Waddle now. Then they will play the Philadelphia Eagles at Philly, and I think they will beat them. And that'll be the first time in a while, really, that not only they will be beating Philly, I think, but that they will have beaten Philly on the East Coast. That's been quite a little bit of a rivalry the past couple of years, and last year, really, they had that game. It was Philadelphia blocked, I believe they blocked a field goal kick, and a punt, and I think one or both went for defensive touchdowns. You take just one of those away, and the Rams get that W there. This year, I believe they will. Then they go back home. They play Buffalo Bills. I think they will lose to Buffalo. Then they got Arizona coming into town. I think that'll just be a little bit of a hangover from Week 5, and I think they will lose to the Cardinals as well. Week 7, they're going out to Vegas, where I think they will win. Then they're going to go back home against the Chargers. I think they will beat the Chargers. Then they come back to the East Coast to play Washington in Week 9. I think that they will win against Washington. Then they go to Arizona, and I think they will win that game as well. Week 11, they got a bye week now. Coming out of the bye, it looks like they're going to be playing, there you go, that's why. They're playing Thanksgiving game, 8 o'clock on Netflix against the Green Bay Packers. I do think they will win that game. It is a home game for the Rams. And then they play Thursday night game the following week, against the Kansas City Chiefs at home as well, and I believe they will also get a win there. Week 14 at San Fran, where I do think they will get a loss. And then Week 15, they will be playing December 20th at home against the Dallas Cowboys. I do think they'll win. I think Week 16, they will win at Seattle, which is an 8:15 game. Oh, that's a Christmas Day game. It's on a Friday this year. That should be a very interesting divisional matchup on Christmas Day. Then they got Week 17 at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I do think that will also be a win, and that looks like it's still to be announced. That'll probably wind up being one of those Saturday games that they throw in towards the end of the year there. And then Week 18, the Seattle Seahawks again. I had them beating the Seahawks in Week 16. Week 18, I think they will fall short, and Seattle will get that win there. And like I said, I think they will go 11-6. So I think they'll be one game worse than last year. And that's all I got, guys. So again, you can always find Elite Sports Talk audio episodes on Spotify or Apple Podcast. And then when it comes to watching the episodes, like I said, YouTube and Rumble. And I really appreciate the viewership. Things are really starting to fall into place here. I'm going to have some episodes coming out with other people. The first episode I did with my cousin, that one didn't turn out great. I had to turn it into an audio-only episode, but I got a little bit of a new setup here, and, I'm going to constantly be changing the game, changing things around, and just, again, thank you guys for viewing or listening, and I'm going to have some more cool stuff coming out soon. Next week, look for another division. Not sure exactly which one I'm going to do yet. I'm going to go over everything.